It is 2003, Iraq, dead of night. American fighter pilots are on the radio, waiting for their targeting call. The voice that comes through is Canadian. Not a liaison officer, not a coordinator on the ground, a Canadian CF-18 pilot, airborne, armed, flying lead on a live combat strike, giving American fighter jets their instructions over a hostile radar site in Iraq. The Americans followed every call. And here is the part nobody talks about. The United States Air Force did not protest this. They did not reassign the lead. They did not send in an F-16 to take over. They specifically asked for the Canadian to run this mission. They looked at every aircraft and every pilot available that night and said, give the lead to the CF-18. Why? That question has three answers. The first is about a radar site that was deliberately designed to kill exactly the kind of aircraft the Americans would normally send. The second is about something Canada did to the CF-18 that the United States never did to its own jets. And the third is about a Canadian pilot whose entire career had been building toward a mission that looked exactly like this one. All three answers come together over Iraq in the dark. And by the time this story ends, you will understand why Canada's Air Force, a force most people couldn't place on a map, was the most important asset in that coalition on that specific night. There is a radar site outside a fortified insurgent position in Iraq. It is not improvised. It is not a man with a radio. It is a fully integrated air defense system, radar-guided, networked, positioned with deliberate precision to create a kill zone over the only approach corridor that leads to the target. Before any strike aircraft can reach that target, this radar has to go blind. This is called SEAD, Suppression of Enemy Air Defenses. The concept is brutal in its simplicity. You fly toward the threat, you force the radar to turn on and lock onto you, then you destroy it before it can fire. The radar operator and the pilot are in a race. One of them does not survive it. The Americans ran the numbers on this site for days. Every solution they generated for the F-16 came back with the same verdict: too much time in the kill zone. The site was built into a terrain corridor, hills, ridgelines, clutter, that forced any aircraft on a standard high-altitude suppression profile to spend too long exposed before the shot was available. The geometry was wrong. The approach vector was wrong. The insurgents had not built this position randomly. They had studied American doctrine. They knew exactly how the F-16 runs a SEAD profile. They placed the radar precisely where that profile fails. The Americans could not solve it. Read that again. The most sophisticated air force on Earth, with dedicated SEAD aircraft, with decades of combat experience, with hardware built specifically for this scenario, could not find an approach geometry that kept the pilot alive long enough to take the shot. And that is the moment someone said, "What about the Canadians?"
Stop for 1 second. Before you hear the answer, you need to understand what makes this question remarkable. The CF-18 and the American F-18 start from the same airframe, same basic design, same manufacturer. So how does a Canadian version of an American aircraft do something the American version cannot? The answer is in what Canada spent 20 years doing to their jets after they received them. The Royal Canadian Air Force did not fly the CF-18 the way it came from the factory. They modified it, independently. The electronic warfare suite was upgraded outside of the American program, Canadian engineers tuning the signal processing for the specific threat environments Canadian pilots operated in: Arctic approaches, NATO's northern corridor, low altitude, high terrain, high-clutter environments where the standard EW package struggled to separate threat signals from background noise. The result was a jet with an electronic warfare configuration that processed radar emissions differently from anything in the American inventory. Not better in every scenario, better in specific scenarios. The kind of scenarios that involved low-altitude approaches in complex terrain against radar systems built to exploit the geometry that defeated standard playbooks, like the site in Iraq. But the hardware is only half of the answer. The other half is how Canadian pilots trained to fly it. Canadian CF-18 Doctrine was built around low-altitude, high-speed, night environment, Not occasionally, consistently. The geography demands it. Rocky Mountain corridors, low-level runs through terrain that would end careers in flatter countries, night profiles in conditions where there is no margin and no recovery. The Canadian flight lead selected for this mission had hundreds of hours in exactly this profile: low, fast, dark, complex terrain, electronic warfare active. His entire career had been a rehearsal for a mission that looked exactly like this one. The mission planners made the call. Flight lead goes to the Canadian. American assets support. The CF-18 runs the package. It is past midnight. The package is airborne. The Canadian flight lead is in the CF-18. Low, fast, lights off. Around him, American aircraft are holding position, waiting on his calls. He is the command node for this entire strike. He decides when the window opens. He decides when the shot is available. He decides when the follow-on package proceeds. He is also flying a combat approach at low altitude in the dark toward a radar site that is actively scanning for him. Think about what that requires. He is simultaneously the mission commander, managing timing, spacing, and sequencing for aircraft from multiple nations, and the most exposed pilot in the package, flying the highest risk profile, closest to the threat. American pilots are on the radio, waiting. The CF-18's EW system begins reading the radar's emission signature. The signal processing does exactly what 20 years of Canadian modifications prepared it to do. It separates the threat emission from the terrain clutter. It identifies the radar's operating parameters. It builds a targeting solution that the geometry of this approach, the low corridor the Americans couldn't use, makes possible. The radar has not acquired the package. The terrain masking that defeated every American profile was working for the Canadian now. He came in below the radar's optimal scan angle, through the corridor the insurgents considered safe because no standard aircraft would use it. The window opens. The shot goes in. The radar site goes dark. Not degraded, not damaged, gone. The site that was positioned specifically to defeat the standard playbook went offline under a strike that a Canadian pilot called from a modified CF-18 at low altitude in the middle of the night over Iraq. The follow-on strike package proceeded to the target. No radar-guided threat in the air. The mission completed exactly as planned. The voice that cleared them in was Canadian.
Here is the moment worth sitting with. After the mission, the American commanders did not reframe what happened. They did not reach for alternative explanations. The debrief assessment was direct. The Canadian EW configuration and the low-altitude night profile solved a problem that the American solution set could not solve. In that terrain, at that altitude, against that specific radar geometry. That acknowledgement inside the American military aviation community is not a small thing. The F-16 community carries enormous institutional pride. The United States Air Force is not accustomed to deferring to Allied assets on strike lead. When American planners say the Canadians solved it, they are not being polite. They are making a technical statement about a capability gap that their own inventory did not fill. And this was not improvisation. The suppression was precise, timed correctly, and executed within planned parameters. The Canadian pilot did not get lucky in the dark. He executed a profile he had trained for, with hardware specifically modified for it, and produced the exact effect the mission required. That is Doctrine working. That is what specialization looks like when it pays off at the worst possible moment. After that night, NATO air planners began looking at Canadian assets differently. The CF-18 had always been counted as a capable Allied contribution, solid, professional, present. After Iraq, it entered a different category. Mission planners began specifically requesting Canadian low-altitude night packages for suppression profiles in complex terrain. The independently developed EW configuration became a reference point for what Allied specialization can produce when it is allowed to diverge from the American standard. This is what Canada's military has always done, quietly, and what most people never see. Canada does not try to replicate American capability at smaller scale. That is a losing strategy. You will always be outspent and outgunned. What Canada builds instead are niche competencies so precisely developed they become irreplaceable in specific scenarios. JTF-2, Canada's Tier 1 counter-terrorism unit has been deployed on joint operations where their specific skills made them the preferred asset over American Special Operations Forces. CSOR built unconventional warfare capacity for environments where firepower is counterproductive, and the CF-18 community built a low-altitude, night environment electronic warfare package so precisely tuned for specific threat geometries that it led a coalition strike in a scenario where the Americans could not run the lead themselves. The pattern is deliberate. Canada builds what fills the gaps, and on a night over Iraq, that gap was real. The radar was live, and the CF-18 was the only aircraft in the coalition that could approach it. The CF-18 is being retired. Canada is transitioning to the F-35, and there is a question that Allied mission planners are already asking. Does the low-altitude night competency transfer? Does the independent EW doctrine survive the platform change? Or does something specific to that Canadian modification program disappear in the transition? Because what made the CF-18 matter that night over Iraq was not the airframe. It was 20 years of deliberate Canadian decisions, engineering decisions, doctrine decisions, training decisions that built a capability the biggest air force on Earth did not have. The F-35 is a more capable aircraft in almost every measurable way, but capability is not the same as specialization. The Americans have F-35s too. What made the CF-18 irreplaceable that night was not power. It was the specific edge Canada had built into a platform the Americans considered a peer aircraft. Whether Canada builds that edge into their F-35 program, or whether they spend the next 30 years flying a jet that is capable but no longer distinctive, is the story I am covering next. If you want to know what Canada keeps, what it loses, and what that means for Allied air operations for the next generation, subscribe, because that answer is not simple, and the implications are bigger than most people realize. Stay tactical. I will see you there.